West Africa, they sometimes begin stories by saying, a story, let it come, let it go. And that's how I'd like to approach our time together here, by calling forth our collective story, examining it through the lens and life experience of some youth today, and observe how this shared story, let's call it living together on planet Earth, is evolving, and what that might tell us about how best to live tomorrow. But first, we need to plant ourselves firmly right here, right now, and realize that part of visioning tomorrow is understanding the issues and concerns of today. As Gandhi said, as Gandhi said, the future depends on what we do in the present. At this moment, in real time and in story time, we are standing in liminal space. This is a threshold between two worlds. The place between the life that we know and the future that remains unknown. Now, liminal space is fragile. It holds the conflicting potential for either a positive or a negative outcome. And the choices we make at this moment will determine whether we as a species fail or prevail. Now, I am a peace builder and a peace educator, which means I am an optimist. I believe peace is possible. I believe if we take care of one another, of all life and our precious earth, we will not only survive, we will thrive. And one of the reasons I believe this is because the youth that I work with are creative, committed, and positive. They hold a collective vision of a just, sustainable, and compassionate future. So I want to ask you, when you think about the future, what do you see? When you envision tomorrow, what images come up for you? Do you believe that global peace is possible? And if you do, what do you imagine you are doing to help create it? Within each of us are some of the story threads of this collective narrative. And our task is to come together cooperatively and interactively and weave this narrative together. Now, why do I think this collective narrative is so important? Because we understand ourselves, our communities, and our role in the world through the stories we hear, the stories we tell, and the stories we believe. If we can collectively come together and create a new and positive story for the future, we have a very good chance of creating this. However, if we're operating at cross purposes and remaining stuck in old behaviors and old power structures, the future looks pretty dim. Now, along with my peace work, I also do work with narrative and storytelling. And central to this work is the belief that stories are one of the most profound tools for healing and transformation. I try to bring the story elixir to every group I work with, be they age 8 or 80 years old. And because I'm committed to peace building, most of the populations I work with are experiencing some form of conflict, be it bullying or abuse, or poverty, or homelessness, or addiction, or racism, or a myriad of other injustices. When someone shares their most heartbreaking and challenging story, it is an act of tremendous courage and trust. As story receivers, we are there to be fully present, to listen empathically, and to bear witness to their suffering. The moment someone takes their hidden, suppressed story out into the light is the moment that person begins to heal what is broken within them. It's like taking a hidden seed and planting it in rich new earth, surrounded by a community that cares for them and protects them. This act of reclamation is rebirth. Each time someone shares one of those stories, they are standing in liminal space. And each moment forward is a movement toward healing. Now, over the past decade, through my research combining peace building and narrative, I've examined thousands of stories by children and teens in conflict situations. These stories were never assigned, they were freely given. There were no prompts, no parameters, only the suggestion: if you would like to share your story, please feel free to do so. So my job as a researcher was to examine these stories and try to find patterns within them. And while I could see certain things, the stories just didn't hang together. And I looked and I looked and I experienced enormous dissonance. And then I had an epiphany. I thought, why don't I look at these stories through a more traditional story structure? So I decided to deconstruct them through a template created by using Vladimir Propp's Morphology of the Folktale and Joseph Campbell, A Hero with 1,000 Faces. And what I discovered at that moment changed my perception of our future story forever. But first, I want to remind us about what the hero's journey structure is. So the hero's journey is a monomyth. We find it in ancient stories, in contemporary fiction like Harry Potter, The Hunger Games. It's a template for most Hollywood movies and for the design of many of our video games. So in essence, you might say that this is the story type we have most absorbed culturally into our consciousness. So here is a story format of the hero's journey. It starts at the top. It starts with the hero. The hero can be anyone. The hero can be you, can be me, can be your parents, your best friends, the youth I work with. And the hero wakes up one morning and something just isn't right. Call it a bad day, a broken relationship, a lost job, a home foreclosed. Whatever it is, something in the world has gone awry, and the hero is called to action. Now, when the hero is called to action, they have a choice to accept this action or not. So some do refuse, but others, standing in that liminal space, the place between the known and the unknown world, are met by a mentor. And a mentor provides that hero with some kind of special wisdom or some kind of elixir. And that enables that hero to go into the unknown world. Now, in fairy tales and folk tales, that mentor can be a witch or a wizard or a talking bird. And they can present a special song or a ball of yarn or a magic horse. But with that, the hero can then meet the tests and challenges ahead of them and conquer them. And through this incredible experience, they go through their own death and rebirth, their own transformation. And they're rewarded for this. They're given a special elixir, some special wisdom that then they can take back to their community, to their known world, and provide something that will actually uplift and better the place where they came from. So, now let's take this and go back to my research. When I examined those stories through this template, I was shocked to discover discover that they all were missing one essential ingredient. They all were missing a mentor. They all were missing a mentor, a donor, a friend, a parent, a teacher, a creative art, a sport, a novel, a spiritual practice, whatever it is that each of us needs to be able to go forward into our lives and make something of ourselves. Now let's think about this for a moment. What does it mean if we have thousands of teens who have no mentors in their lives? What kind of a story does that say about our culture? It says that we have these teens straddling liminal space, 1 foot in the world that they're familiar with, and 1 foot in the place of adulthood, reaching forward into their lives, but they have no one to provide them with any kind of wisdom or support or help to make the best out of their lives moving forward. And so I thought, what does this say about our story? To me, it said that we need to change our hero archetype. We need to consider blending the notion of a hero as hero and mentor. And so, what would this blended archetype of hero-mentor look like in our world? Well, here are some examples. Might look like that, Gandhi. Or this, Dr. King. Or this, Nelson Mandela. Or this, Malala. Or, since the bar's so high, why not even this? You. The heroism that's necessary in this new archetype of hero-mentor is the ability to approach conflict non-violently, to embrace the world compassionately, and to live with loving kindness. Now, if we examine the lives and the philosophies of past Nobel Peace Laureates, we'll also discover other ways of behaving. Optimism. The only way to be the change is to believe that you can be. Kinship with others. Dr. King called this the beloved community, of which we all are a part. No one, absolutely no one, is not part of this community. Humility. You understand it's not about me or about you, it's about the collective. Honesty, hard work, ability to embrace conflict as an opportunity for good. Conflict is natural in life. We're not trying to eradicate it, we're trying to deal with it creatively. And so I would say that this means that we need to learn peace-building methodologies. We need to learn restorative justice, nonviolent communication, Kingian nonviolence. Love all humanity, even their perceived enemies. Nelson Mandela, he was amazing in this regard when you think about how he dealt with his prison guards. Practice forgiveness, Desmond Tutu. Strive for interconnection. They understand it takes a village. It takes all of us to create a culture of peace. So, peacemaking begins within each of us, and it radiates outward. And while I would encourage anyone who feels the call to be a peace builder in the Congo or in Syria to follow that noble challenge, it's essential we also realize that peace building begins right here, right now, in all of our lives. So I want to ask you, what issues are you passionate about? When you think about the challenges and the concerns in our world today, what lights you up? Global warming? Do you want to change the issues of poverty and hunger and sex trafficking? Well, then I call you to roll up your hero mentor sleeves and get to work. Joseph Campbell himself recognized that we were in the process of creating a new story, but he wasn't sure what that story is or would be. And I believe the youth are leading us there. They understand that this is not a singular journey, it's a collective one. So here we are, standing together at the threshold between the world that we live in now and the future. If I were a mentor at that threshold, what gift would I like to give to us at this point in time? I would like us to trust that our small, heroic steps will indeed turn into larger actions. I would encourage us to speak up for the silenced, to protect the earth and all life, to challenge inequitable systems and structures, to never give in to injustice, even though that may require personal sacrifice. I would wake us up to the truth that what happens to one, be it our neighbors, the miners in Turkey, the bees, the oceans, the kidnapped girls in Nigeria, affects all of us. We are a global, interconnected web, and that is a tremendous responsibility and an amazing gift. So as we stand here with our foot between these two worlds, in liminal space, I call us to take on the mantle of hero and mentor, and to come together to collectively create the new story for tomorrow.